my beautiful friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathleen, and I love to talk about all things bookish in this space. And today is no different because we are going to be doing my July wrap up, and we're going to be talking about what some of my goals and plans are when it comes to reading for August. So let's jump into it. So this would not be a monthly reading wrap up if we didn't talk about the books that I read and kind of reflect on the stats for the month of July. So July was a bit of a crazy month. I didn't get a lot of reading done, and I owe that in full to the fact that I got to spend the first half of July with my family back in Georgia, spending time with my parents for their anniversary and also going to the Cowboy Carter concert with my sister. So obviously, y'all, I had a blast, and my mind was not anywhere focused on any books, because around the tail end of July, so a little bit after when I came home, I was planning and preparing for the trip, planning and preparing for the concert. When I got there, it was all about spending time with family and all about getting ready for the concerts. And yeah, I just wasn't fit to be reading anybody's book. I was having the time of my life, and I don't regret it. It is probably the pinnacle of my summer. However, that means my reading took a hit, and I only got to read 3 books for the month of July because of that. So yeah, I mean, I was a little bit of a mess, but it was all worth it. And it's all good. It's all good. What can you do? So I did read a total of 3 books for the month of July. The average time it took me to finish was about 10 days. The top moods that I kind of navigated for in my books is, as usual, emotional, tense, mysterious, and those kind of fit the vibe of the books that I was reading this month. When it comes to the pace, all the books that I read were medium-paced books. The page numbers that each of these books had, they were anywhere from between 300 to 499 pages, or 300 and less. So those were kind of like the page numbers for the books that I was reading. I only read fiction books. I have not read any nonfiction for the summer as of yet, and definitely didn't read any nonfiction in July. The top genres that I was reading from were romance, mystery, literary. Those were the top genres I read from. And when it came to the format, I only read print. So all the books that I read were physical copies of the hardcovers that I got from the library. When it came to reviews, my average rating was a 3.67 stars. And when it came to how many pages that I was able to read in July, I read 1,142 pages. So let's talk about the 3 books that I read. So the first book that I read was Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Now, in this novel, it very much has this feel and vibe of being a kind of noir novel, as it is set in 1960s Mexico City, Mexico. And we are following Mai Tai, as she is kind of this secretary who's not really thrilled with her life. She doesn't have the best relationship with her mom and her sister, and she feels disconnected from them. She feels a little bit out of step with her life and with the world in general, and just dissatisfied with everything. And the only thing that gives her solace, and the only thing that kind of entertains her and gives her hope, is these little kind of trashy romance novellas that she reads. And they kind of give her hope, and she can daydream and think about what it would be like to be one of the heroines in these stories, to fall in love with beautiful, handsome, mysterious men. And that's kind of like what she just kind of fixates on. But she finds herself in a bit of a sticky situation when she agrees to cat sit for her very glamorous and beautiful younger neighbor while she is going out of town. And during that, she doesn't come back, and she's forced to take care of this cat, and she's trying to like find some kind of family or friend where she can leave the cat with. But she ends up getting caught in this kind of investigation as these people are trying to find out where this neighbor of hers has disappeared to and what's happened with her. And she kind of finds herself in the mix with that. And simultaneously, we have this youngster named Elvis, who is a part of this group that I guess they kind of like go after political dissidents during that time. And he is tasked with following Mai Tai and seeing what she knows about the missing girls being missing and her disappearance, and if she is in possession of some materials that they suspect that the missing girl passed on to Mai Tai. And this was very interesting, very, I don't want to say it's very heavy, but it was very like dark, mysterious, very sultry, very atmospheric the way that this was written, and I really enjoyed that. I felt for both of the characters. I felt for Mai Tai and I felt for Elvis, especially for Elvis. I think he was really one of my favorite characters. But both of these characters were kind of like dissatisfied with their life, dissatisfied with the way that things were going, and were wanting something more, something better. They both had this very dreamer, romantic, kind of idealistic view of the world and personalities. And it was fascinating to just kind of see how things were happening for them and how things went for them. And how they both had to come to this point in this story where they made the decision and they took charge of their future. They took charge of these situations and they made the decisions of how to move forward. And they kind of saw their self-worth and their value, and they rose above these unsavory circumstances and what have you. And I enjoyed it. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. I thought that this was phenomenal. It was very fascinating and it was very captivating. And I kept coming back to it, turning these pages and just being so enthralled with this story. Next, we have My Friends by Fredrik Backman, which is my second novel by Fredrik Backman. So in this very captivating and emotional and poignant novel, we are following this young girl named Louisa as she's kind of down on her luck right now. She is going through a lot of emotional turmoil and grief. And she has this particular relationship with this painting that she's kind of been fixated on ever since she was young. And it represents, I guess, or it gives her hope, and it represents something beautiful and wonderful to her. And as events transpire in this novel, she ends up having this chance encounter with this gentleman in the back alley of an art museum, and she becomes the owner of this very same painting that she has just been in love with for so many years. And this propels her on this journey to learning about the history of the painting, learning about the people that are in the painting, and learning more about the artist himself. And just when it comes to writing compelling, enthralling, emotional, and captivating novels that really explores the human experience and the human condition, Fredrik Backman does it like no other. I do have a video or a reading blog that I'm going to be posting soon, kind of like showing my experience reading this novel and just how amazing it was. So I don't want to get too much into kind of going into depth because I don't want to be redundant, but yeah, it was phenomenal. The writing was out of this world. The way that this man can use such simple words and arrange them in such a compelling and profound way that they create a very visceral, evocative, like emotion from you will forever stun me. His writing is just top tier, and I enjoy his work so much. Even though this is the second book that I've read from him, I really enjoy what he can do with his novels, with his subject matter, the themes and the topics that he talks about. Just phenomenal. This was immediately a 5-star read. And the last book that we're going to talk about is Bloodguard by Cecy Robson. And in this romantasy, we are following Leaf of Grey, who comes from this foreign country and has come to the country of Arrow to fight as a gladiator in their games because he is seeking to improve the life and station of his mom and his sisters back home, as he does have a sister that is sick, and he is trying to fight and win money so he can send money home and just end up basically winning the title of Bloodguard, which will have him become a royal and receive compensation and money and accolades and improve his station in life so that he can take care of his family. However, as he is kind of fighting and working his way up to become the Bloodguard and enduring a lot of the mental, emotional, psychological abuse that comes with that, he ends up becoming acquainted with the future heir to the throne of Arrow, Maeve. And Maeve has her own plans and her own ideals as she is trying to befriend him and kind of give him this proposition of marriage and asking him to marry her because she is dealing with a lot of craziness and a lot of kind of political machinations behind the scenes as her father is imprisoned for the supposed assassination and murder of the former queen, her grandmother, and he's in jail, and that has caused a lot of friction and just kind of heaviness within her family. And she is also trying to avoid this kind of semi arranged or expected marriage with Sorrow, as he's just not a very savory character. He has evil ideas, evil machinations, obsessed with power. He's just not the nice guy. He's very brutal and barbaric. And she doesn't want to end up having to marry and have him rise into power and rule Arrow with this evil kind of a heart and this brutal aspirations that he has, as she wants to change Arrow for the better and improve what's going on in Old Earth. So she has given him this proposition of asking to marry. He has agreed, and we are watching these two and the political machinations that is happening within this court, and also what is happening with Leaf as he's trying to rise up to Bloodguard, and all the different things and circumstances that kind of come in the way for them. And also as these two begin to develop a romance and a liking for each other. So the premise of this was fascinating. I like the aspect of the gladiator aspect of it and how it kind of borrowed from like Roman inspiration and from the Roman Empire. And I thought that was interesting and cool. I also really enjoy a lot of the themes and topics in this novel, as well as it is clearly kind of discussing foreigners, immigration, and there is a lot of commentary involving that. There is a lot that she has to say about immigration and about like foreigners and the idea that people have when it comes to being xenophobic, and this idea that people that are coming from foreign countries or people that are immigrants are coming to take from the natives in these countries and in these lands, and that they kind of like it's basically this xenophobic attitudes and how they look down on them, treat them as less, and how, especially when it comes to them fighting in the arenas to be gladiators, how they're treated, how they're just not given any, fair, equal compensation, just the way that they live their lives and the way that they are treated. She goes into depth with this, and I appreciated that commentary. I appreciated the exploration of those themes and topics, especially when you can see the parallels from this novel with our current day society. I found that to be very, very interesting and very important to talk about. That being said, this novel really didn't work for me, unfortunately. I found it a struggle to care about the characters. I found it difficult to actually care about the story. I found the writing to be not very remarkable, not very immersive. It didn't really pull me in. It lacked a lot of description. It wasn't very atmospheric. It was very lackluster. It lacked a lot of emotion and depth. There was very little or low world building, and I do believe that this is going to be a series, so I can understand that there's the idea to leave room for more world building in future installments. But I just felt like there was no introduction to anything, no introduction to the world. The little bit of world building that we got, it just really was lackluster, and it really didn't help you as a reader to get an understanding of the world, an understanding of the people, an understanding of the politics of Arrow and how everything was set up. I didn't really vibe with that. I felt the characters were very flat and one-dimensional. There wasn't any kind of like layers or depth to any of these characters. They were very surface level, very superficial. I also felt the romance was very forgettable and unremarkable. It just I don't know. It really wasn't interesting to me. I don't know if I didn't buy it or I just wasn't, it just didn't do anything for me. The spice was not spicing. It was not fascinating or anything to write home about. Um, I just felt like the writing could have been more. It could have given a little bit more to give more of an emotional punch. I feel like for as dark and heavy as this novel was, I felt that she could have gone a little bit darker. She could have gone a little deeper, and she could have really explored the moral ambiguity that each of these characters had when it comes to this particular um, government and this particular political system. And we could have seen that in a bit more depth and really explored the darkness and the morally gray aspects of each of these characters and why they were that way because of this society and because of this system. We get maybe a taste of that, but not really to the depths that would have made a more compelling and emotional experience for me to read about. So unfortunately, I ended up giving this a 1.5 star, and that is the first time in like a long time I've ever given such a low rating to a book. It's really something I wish I would have DNF'd it. But the only reason I did DNF is because I wanted to see how everything kind of like come together at the end with the different kind of the political subplot that we were following in this novel. But yeah, unfortunately, I ended off the month with a not very good reading experience. But what can you do? Now, when it comes to monthly TBRs, I've kind of given that a backseat because I don't want to say that I'm a mood reader because I'm not necessarily a mood reader. I can definitely follow a structured TBR, but I feel like I have so many ideas and I have so many interests and so many books that I want to read and get into. And the fact that I'm not reading as fast as I was at the start of the year has made following a TBR challenging because I kind of just want the freedom and the flexibility to go wherever I want to go. Whether it's just to focus on the library books that I've checked out or if it's just focusing on my physical TBR and just reading what interests me. I don't really want to have like a set TBR of books that I need to read for each month. While I do feel like I want to get back to doing like a seasonal TBR where I kind of have like books that I hope to get to over the season, I just don't think that monthly TBRs are going to be my jam for a while, unfortunately. But I do have some core books that I do want to read this month and that I want to get into. First up is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I bought this book a little while ago and I definitely want to get into it as I have read a novel love story by her and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 4.5, if not 5 stars. Love that story. I love the magical realism aspect that she infuses into her novels, into her romances. I find that I like that. It's such a fun, funky, fresh little thing to implement in these stories. And so this one is no different. So I do believe in The 7-Year Slip, we are following Clementine West after she has lost her aunt and she has inherited her apartment. And she goes to the apartment and when she's in the kitchen, she notices that there is a strange man there. Come to find out that this apartment has a little bit of a time slip where she is 7 years in the future and this man is 7 years in the past. And what of course happens is even though she's trying not to, and this man is super charming, he's super handsome, she begins to develop feelings for him and a little bit of a romance blossoms and she's trying to figure out how in the world this could work or how she's not going to end up leaving this situation with a completely broken heart. So I'm looking forward to reading this. Plus it looks so super summery and so super fun and I definitely want to make sure that I finish off the last official month of the summer with a bang. So can't wait. I need to prioritize reading this. Next is The Death of Vivek Oji. This is by Akwaeke Emezi. And I read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. Love that book. I gave it, I do believe, 4.5 stars. And I am super excited to get back into her work and to explore more of her backlist and read more stories and novels by her. And so, with the death of Vivek Oji, the synopsis says, one afternoon in a town in southeastern Nigeria, a mother opens her front door to discover her son's body wrapped in colorful fabric at her feet. What follows is a tumultuous, heart-wrenching story of one family's struggle to understand a child whose spirit is both gentle and mysterious. Raised by a distant father and a compassionate but overprotective mother, Vivek Oji suffers disorienting blackouts, moments of disconnection between self and surroundings. As adolescence leads to adulthood, Vivek finds solace in friendships with the warm, boisterous daughters of the Niger wives, foreign-born women married to Nigerian men. But Vivek's closest bond is with Osita, the worldly, high-spirited cousin whose teasing confidence masks a guarded private life. As their relationship deepens and Osita struggles to understand Vivek's escalating crisis, the mystery gives way to a heart-stopping act of violence in a moment of exhilarating freedom. This sounds amazing. And also the mention of the Niger Wives. So I did read a mystery thriller by Vanessa Walters called The Niger Wives, and they're talking about that whole kind of culture and community of Niger Wives. So can't wait to see what she has to say about this culture and community in this novel. Looking forward to reading this. Next up, we have The Poppy Fields by Nikki Erlick. So this is going to be the second or the sophomore effort from this author. I have read The Measure by Nikki Erlick, 5 fabulous stars. Loved that story so much. It made me weep. And I am excited to read this next novel by her, as I do believe in this novel it's going to be multi-point of view, which I love, and we're going to be following these different people as they are traveling to this facility that has this kind of experimental treatment where it helps you to manage your grief and to kind of get over, or not necessarily forget, but move on past your grief by sleeping. And through this sleeping, you will wake up and you will be kind of like healed and kind of over this traumatizing grief or disabling grief that you have. But this treatment does come with some strange and interesting side effects. So we're going to be following what happens with these people who participate in the study and this facility. And I cannot wait to see what Nikki Erlick has to say in her second novel, because in The Measure, her writing was stunning. The way that she made such a multi-layered and complex story with such real, fully fleshed out characters that you immediately care about and you just become so invested and immersed in. I could only imagine that she's going to get better from such a powerful and just magnificent debut. Can't wait to get into this. And lastly, we have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. So this book came out last June or July, and I didn't get around to reading it, but I want to make sure that I read it this month because I do believe this is set in the summer. So this is going to be the perfect mystery thriller for the summer, and I have to read it because I'm not necessarily a seasonal reader, but I kind of am. I like to read books that are appropriate for the season. So books that have summer feels to them, I like to read them in the summer. And books that give more of the fall or winter vibes, I like to read them during those times of year. That's just who I am. And in the middle of the night, I do believe we are following a gentleman named Ethan. And Ethan basically had this sleepover with his friend one night, and he wakes up the next day to find out that his friend is missing. And this has kind of traumatized him and troubled him throughout his life. And he has moved back to this neighborhood, and he's trying to figure out what happened to his friend. And as he's kind of digging deeper into this, he's beginning to believe that someone is either taunting him or his best friend has come back to haunt him. So this sounds very fascinating. It sounds like it's also going to be a bit emotional. I did go to an author event for Riley Sager for the release of With a Vengeance in June, and he was saying and talking about how this was a more emotional thriller for him, and it was a different speed than kind of what he's normally written. So I'm interested to see exactly what it's about. I do know that a lot of people did not vibe with this. But I don't know. I like Riley Sager. I like his work. I can't wait to get into this and see what this is all about. So those are pretty much the 4 books that I'm prioritizing to read for August and that I really want to make sure that I get to. When it comes to my reading goal for the month, I'm loosely setting a reading goal to read 10 books. My overall goal for the year is to read 160, and so far I have read, I do believe, 71 books, so I'm on track to meet my goal, but I want to continue to stay on track because currently I think I'm only 2 books ahead of schedule, but I want to get more books ahead of schedule, and if possible, I want to go ahead and knock this goal out before the end of the year gets here and I feel this mad rush to try to like reach that goal. So I need to read 10 books. Yeah, I need to get back on my game and read more books. Yeah, so that's all that I have planned for this August. I feel like this is going to be an amazing month because this is also my birthday month. So I do have, for my birthday week, with my birthday, it's on August 15th. I do have plans to go to Austin and kind of just do this book crawl and have a good time going to the different bookstores in Austin, as well as some of my favorite indie bookstores here in San Antonio. So it's going to be a fabulous time. I can't wait for all the fun that I'm going to get into. But that is all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below what books you're looking to read or looking forward to read for this month. What is your reading goal for the month? What are you looking to get into? How are you going to celebrate the end of summer? Let me know all about it in the comments. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.